A viewer emailed me last week asking the same question I get constantly in different forms. Is $2 million actually enough to retire on? Or is that just a number people repeat because it sounds impressive at a dinner party? Some people swear by 1 million. Someone's cousin who trades crypto probably has a wildly different opinion. But 2 million keeps surfacing as the number that sits right between technically sufficient and genuinely comfortable, so let's actually test that claim instead of just repeating it. Not the version where you're sipping something tropical on a yacht in a stock photo. The actual version with real numbers, real taxes, and a real monthly budget. By the end, you'll probably feel two things at once: genuinely motivated and slightly nervous. That's normal. My name is Jeff Whitfield, and welcome to My Money Mindset. I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't advice, but my goal here is to help you improve your mindset around money. First, ground rules. $2 million sitting in a savings account, earning basically nothing at your local bank branch, is a completely different animal than $2 million actually invested and working, spread across index funds, some bonds, maybe a little real estate exposure. Using the 4% withdrawal rule, that translates to $80,000 a year, indefinitely without ever working again. Sit with that for a second before you draft your resignation letter, because there's a lot more to unpack first. Where this money actually lives matters just as much as the total sitting in the account, because most people approaching retirement have their 2 million split across a few genuinely different buckets, and each one plays by its own rules. Roth accounts deserve to go first, because they're the least understood and arguably the most powerful. You fund these with money you've already paid income tax on, no deduction today, no shortcut. But because the IRS already collected their share on the way in, they have zero claim on the way out. Growth is entirely tax-free, and withdrawals in retirement are entirely tax-free too. No income tax whatsoever. This tool is genuinely underused by regular investors, and having a meaningful chunk of your 2 million sitting here gives you real control over what your taxable income looks like from year to year. Traditional accounts, your 401k, and traditional IRA work in the opposite direction and probably represent the largest slice of the typical American's retirement savings. Contributions go in before the IRS takes a cut, and everything compounds completely untaxed for decades. But that tax bill never disappeared, it just got postponed. Withdraw money in retirement, and it counts as ordinary income, subject to federal tax and possibly state tax too. The silver lining is that most retirees land in a lower bracket than they were in during their working years, meaning you effectively banked a discount, dodging taxes at a high rate while earning and repaying them later at a lower one. Then there's the plain taxable brokerage account. No special treatment on the way in, but long-term capital gains get taxed more gently than ordinary income at 0, 15, or 20%, depending on your overall income that year. Held strategically, this bucket can be remarkably tax efficient, especially if you're thoughtful about which account you actually draw from in any given year. The ideal setup blends all three because flexibility is the whole point. Some years you pull from the Roth because your other income is elevated. Other years you harvest capital gains at the 0% bracket because your income happens to be low that year. This kind of coordination isn't just for accountants with spreadsheets. It's genuinely the difference between keeping $80,000 and keeping something closer to $67,000 after taxes. Now let's actually build the monthly budget, because most retirement content shows you the math and skips the actual life. Say you're retired with $2 million, pulling the full $80,000 a year. After realistic federal taxes, you're probably taking home somewhere around $69,000 to $73,000 in genuine spending money. Call it $71,000 to keep things clean, which works out to about $5,900 a month. Is that extravagant? No. Is that first-class flights and Michelin-starred dinners every week? Not even close. Is it genuinely comfortable in most parts of the country? Completely, yes. Housing, assuming you own outright and you're just covering taxes, insurance, and upkeep, runs somewhere around $1,100 to $1,400. Food, groceries, plus a reasonable amount of eating out lands around $550 to $750. Healthcare is the category that catches people off guard, running $850 to $1,250 if you're retiring before Medicare eligibility kicks in at 65, since private coverage before that age gets genuinely expensive. Transportation, whether that's a car payment or just the ongoing cost of a paid-off vehicle, sits around $350 to $550. Travel and leisure, the fun category, Road trips, grandkids, an occasional trip that doesn't feel embarrassingly budget runs 550 to 750. Utilities and the inevitable pile of streaming subscriptions you'll pretend you don't have too many of, 250 to 350. And a buffer for the unexpected, because water heaters don't check your retirement status before failing, another 300 to 400. Add it up and you're looking at roughly $3,900 to $5,600 a month and expenses against $5,900 available. That's a genuine breathing room, not luxurious but real. And plenty of your biggest working era expenses simply vanish in retirement too. No more retirement contributions eating your paycheck. No payroll taxes, no work wardrobe. No grabbing an overpriced lunch because your boss scheduled a meeting through the middle of your break. That adds up more than people expect. Social Security changes this entire equation, and most people treat it as an afterthought instead of a core piece of the plan. Claim at 62, and your benefit is permanently reduced. Wait until your full retirement age, 67 for most people born after 1959, and you get the full amount. Delay past that, all the way to 70, and your benefit grows by roughly 8% for every year you wait. So picture retiring at 65 with your $2 million intact. Instead of immediately drawing the full 80,000, you pull 58 to 63,000 for a couple of years, knowing that at 67, Social Security adds roughly $25,200 annually, about $2,100 a month, showing up automatically without touching a single share of your portfolio. From that point forward, your investments only need to cover the gap between that check and your actual spending target, closer to $55,000 in withdrawals instead of 80. That single adjustment alone can stretch a portfolio that might have lasted 30 years into one that comfortably lasts 40 or 50. Married couples get two benefit checks, which changes the math again dramatically. Suddenly, $2 million looks less like enough and more like genuinely secure. Now for the honest risk, because it would be irresponsible to tell you $2 million means smooth sailing forever. The sequence of returns risk is the scary one nobody explains well. Imagine retiring right as the market drops 40% in your very first year, while you're still withdrawing $80,000. You're selling shares at the worst possible moment, permanently shrinking the pool that would otherwise recover once the market rebounds. The 4% rule accounts for this historically, but that doesn't make it any less stressful watching $2 million shrink to $1.2 million in your first year of freedom. Keeping 1 to 2 years of expenses in a high-yield cash account means a downturn doesn't force you to sell anything at all. You just wait it out. Healthcare costs are the biggest wild card in the entire American retirement picture. Retire before 65 and you're paying full private insurance premiums out of pocket until Medicare kicks in. Budget generously here, more generously than feels necessary because you'll be glad you did. And inflation quietly erodes everything if you're not careful. $2 million looks impressive in today's dollars, but at a typical 3% annual inflation rate, purchasing power roughly halves over about 24 years. That $80,000 withdrawal today needs to become somewhere around $160,000 in nominal terms just to buy the same basket of goods 2.5 decades from now. This is exactly why staying meaningfully invested in growth assets, primarily stocks, still matters deep into retirement. The old advice to shift entirely into bonds doesn't hold up well for people who might live another 3 decades. So who is $2 million actually enough for? It genuinely depends on geography and lifestyle. Retire in San Francisco or Manhattan, and $80,000 a year starts feeling tight fast. A one-bedroom apartment alone can eat over $4,000 a month, nearly your entire budget on housing. High-cost cities either require significantly more than $2 million or a willingness to relocate somewhere cheaper. Retire somewhere like Asheville, Boise, or Sarasota, or honestly most of the middle and southeastern United States, and $80,000 a year becomes a genuinely excellent income, a nice home, regular meals out, real travel, and lasting financial security. $2 million in a lower cost area is transformative money. And if your mortgage is fully paid off by retirement, the math improves even further. Eliminating that payment alone can free up $1,400 to $2,900 a month, which reshapes what the rest of your $2 million is capable of supporting. The honest conclusion: $2 million supports a genuinely comfortable, secure retirement for a wide range of Americans, but it is not enough money to never think about money again. You still need discipline, a real healthcare plan, and the good sense not to make a catastrophic decision in year one out of pure excitement. We all know someone who retired and immediately financed a boat and a vacation property in the same month. Don't be that person. For anyone watching who isn't anywhere near 2 million yet and wondering how you actually get there, here's the honest version. Invest consistently in tax-advantaged accounts, 401k, traditional or Roth IRA, starting as early as you possibly can. Favor low-cost index funds over trying to beat the market because the data is remarkably consistent that most people who attempt that just pay more in fees while underperforming a simple index anyway. Push your savings rate as high as you can sustain without making your day-to-day life miserable. Invest $1,900 a month starting at 30, earning something close to the historical real return of the stock market around 8%, and you land at $2 million right around age 56. Start at 25 instead, and you get there closer to 51. Time is genuinely the unfair advantage most people waste by simply waiting. Here's what actually matters underneath all of this. 2 million was never really about yachts or looking impressive to anyone. What it actually buys is control. Control over your mornings, your time, and your own decisions. Waking up because you chose to, not because a job demanded it. That $80,000 a year isn't just income. It's the quiet absence of that Sunday evening dread before another Monday. It's being able to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't, without checking with anyone first. That kind of ordinary, unglamorous freedom is worth more than most of the flashier versions of wealth people try to sell you.